Hello everyone, welcome to Legal Darshan. In this video, we are going to talk about different schools of jurisprudence. As there are a lot of schools, the very first school is natural school, another one is analytical school, which is also known as positive school or imperative school, or some people also say it Austinian school or English school because it was predominantly followed in England. The next we come up to is historical school and then sociological school followed by realist school. So these are the five schools of jurisprudence which gives principle of what law is. They have defined law in their own forms, where for example, whereas positive school deals with the present scenario of any condition, it says that law is an order, is a command by sovereignty, and it should be followed. It work on a scientific manner that there is a consequence for an already done action. Whereas sociological school focuses more on the sociological norms, it says that law should be in accordance with the social principles that people are following. So each school has described law as its own thinking, as its own philosophy, and we are going to talk in brief about what each school talks about. So the first school that emerged out is known to be natural school. Natural school defined law as the principle guarded or set by the universally set by the god. They say any rule opposite to what God has said is disregarded and is not followed in the society. The major philosophers of this school are Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Saint Augustine, Saint Thomas, Saint Crucius, Hobbes, Locke, and Kant, and many more. Since it was the first law school that is known, it is important to note that when we talked about major legal systems, it was mentioned that the Romano Germanic family has followed the principle of natural law. Thus, natural law says the supreme controlling force in the universe is the divine law or the law of God. It says that the three main components of any natural law philosophy is universality and immutability, its standing as a higher law, and its discovery by reason. So, according to the naturalist, unjust law or law which is in opposition to the divine law is disregarded and there is no such law existing. So, the law, according to natural school, was completely based upon the principles of morality, the good or bad in the society, and a principle that might is right was embedded in the natural law philosophy. The beginning of 19th century saw the decline of natural law philosophy. There were positive school scientists or positive school analysts which started sharing their ideas of how law should be, bringing out the demerits and the disadvantages of natural law system. But natural system hold certain appreciable points as well. It was based upon morality. It provided sound principles of human conduct. It had justification to resist bad laws and the power of legislature was limited. So natural law served as a guideline for positive laws as well, what we will be studying in the further video. Another thing that there are principles like quasi contract reasonableness, justice, equality, equity, and good conscience, innocent until proven guilty. All these principles which we are following today were also derived from natural law. It gave the basis for fundamental rights also, that is certain rights like right to life, right to occupation, profession, religion, etc., that has been derived from the principles of natural justice only. But where this theory failed was there was no distinction laid down between law and morality, which is not acceptable in recent times reality. For example, if abortion is considered wrong in some personal law, but due to population control measures and other factors, it is required. In today's scenario, women's health may suffer from pregnancy, but if we go by the natural justice principle, it is wrong and unjust. But if it is required today, it is, it should not be weighted, it should not be like stopped to do from. Therefore, there are some distinct drawbacks which are distincted out of this theory. Another drawback is what is right, unjust, what laws are unjust. No one could decide that, because ultimately the sovereign was God, and there is no practical existence of what rules God have made, and uh, what if they are not virtually possible or impossible. The principle might is right was only applicable up to God, but was not only applicable up to God but also applicable in the society. For example, a person who has stolen something from the temple will be punished, whereas if the priest or if the pope has done that, he will not be punished because he is mightier than the normal person. So there were distinction in the punishments given to the people depending on the mightier status of the people. So these drawbacks were overcome by the positive school theory. Positive school theory worked against the idea of natural justice, which was dominated by uncertainty, confusions, fallacies, and incoherence. John Austin is known as the father of analytical school. He was disciple of Bentham. It is surprising to note that when Austin was working on his theory regarding positive school, Hans Kelsen, another prominent name in the list of analytical school jurists, was also working on his theory. Although the Kelsenian theory was published 100 years after the Austinian theory, Kelsen had no idea that such kind of theory is already in progress. However, the common points of both Kelsen and Austin were imperative. They distinguished law from morality. A clear line was drawn in between law and morality by both the jurists. Now, what positive school talks about is, according to Hobbes, positive laws are those which have not been from eternity but have been made laws by the will of those who have had sovereign power over others. Now, there was one another thing in natural school, that the laws were immutable. Something that is created by divine is in the hands of divine. Now, who is going to listen to divine? No one. So priests and all, they were always following the divine principles, which had no area of amendment. Whereas positive school has the core word positus, which means present, not future, not the past. So, positivism was a distinct approach to law which concerned itself with positive law, that is, legal systems and rules actually enforced distinct from ideal systems or law which should be. Positive law basically refers to those binding and obligatory laws which emerge from a person in position termed as sovereign. So, if someone is not following the obligation, he will be punished or he will be given sanctions as per suggested by Austin, and Kelsen took it as in the form of a normative science. It said that law is not what it is but what it is ought to be. The divine law is taken as what it is but not what it is ought to be. But Kelsen put a theory of what it is ought to be, what it should be in order to maintain the conduct of people in a society. So the positive school talks about the contention that laws are command for human beings, the contention that there is no necessary connection between law and morals as it is and ought to be, the contention that the analysis of legal concept is worth pursuing and is to be distinguished historic from historical inquiries into the causes and origin of law and the social phenomena. It is the contention that a legal system is a closed logical system in which correct legal decisions can be deduced by logical means from predetermined legal rules without reference to social aims, policies, and moral standards. It is the contention that moral judgments cannot be established or defended as statements of facts can by rational arguments, evidence, or proofs. The positive school brings the clarity and a demarcation between law and morals. the f- the law is as it is ought to be, wherein the morals are essential in nature of command but are merely persuasive and non obligatory. Morals are something that are just governing human conducts, but they are not obligatory and only persuasive in nature. Whereas law, according to positive school, was obligatory. It didn't only have persuasive value, but it was strict for the people to follow. It gave rights and duties to people. It gave them obligations to follow, and it has a provision of equal sanction for all the people if they violate these rules against the sovereign. Now, the next school that emerged out in late 19th century was historical school. It came out as a reaction against positive law and a reaction against natural law also. It considered natural law as the natural law was rationalist, universalist, and individualist. Historical school was a reaction against a prior notion of natural philosophy. Natural law thinkers had thought of law which was always the same. According to historical school, they failed to see that law had grown and developed from the past. The natural law philosophers believed in ideal principles of law as revealed by reason and did not look to history, traditions, customs, habits, and religion as true basis of law. The reaction against positive school emphasized that positive school refused to recognize the impact of legal evolution, which meant that existing law and legal institutions can be supported or opposed only when we know the sanction behind them and how they worked in the past and are actually working in the present. According to historical school, the English law or the positive law described by Austin, Hart, and Kelson is the law having coercive command issued by the sovereign, which is devoid of moral and cultural values. The major jurists to this school were Montesquieu, Hugo, Herder, Edmund Burke, Henry Manet, and Savigny, who gave the theory of Vogt meaning people's popular spirit as a source of law. Savigny, Henry Manet were the main components of this school, which have talked about Vogt, the popular law, and the latter, Sir Henry Manet, has talked about historical comparative methods. He has put his importance on customs, traditions, primitive institutions, etc., to discover these comparative methods. Now, what was the historical idea of Savigny? It consisted of the following things. First, law is a matter of unconscious, organic, and evolutionary growth. Law is therefore found or discovered and cannot be artificially made or invented. It does not consist of an abstract set of rules imposed on society by any political agency. The basis of law to be found in Vogt, which means people's consciousness or popular will, consists of traditions, customs, habits, practices, and beliefs of people. Savigny believed that early development of law is spontaneous. Law is like language that grows and evolves with nation. It has its roots deeply embedded in socio-economic conditions and other factors. The growth of law, thus, is a silent organic process like the growth of language, which grows with the nation and dies with the nation. He also emphasized that law cannot be of universal validity and popular spirit cannot be criticized for being what it is. It is the standard by which laws, which are the conscious product of the will as distinct from popular conviction, are to be judged. He said, as society advances from the primitive stages to a more developed stage with all the attendant complexities of modern civilization, Vogt alone cannot discharge the function. Law is not fashioned, molded, and articulated by judges and lawyers who form the part of society and operate as a vehicle or representative of the spirit of people. The popular consciousness is thus represented by judges and lawyers who become the mouthpiece of popular consciousness, and their work to shape the law accordingly. Now, Savini's theory was also criticized because it had undue hostility towards codification of laws. He didn't believe in codification of law. He believed that whatever the customs have been followed in the history of a nation, they should be followed. He neglected the other sources of laws. There are many areas which would have been left without legal rules because there never existed any popular consciousness about them. It was felt that there was undue and unexplained importance to customs. Savini view that customs are always based upon popular consciousness is also not acceptable. Many institutions have originated in according to their convenience, a ruling oligarchy. Many customs such as slavery, bonded labor, etc., are due to selfish interest of the people and they must be demolished by the society. In India, when we talk about the Indian context, there is this sati pratha, which is totally immoral and it is totally wrong to make a living woman burn along with her husband just because her husband died. Therefore, it was the popular will in the early times of the in the early times of India, but they are not acceptable. But according to Savini, we should accept them because they are the customs. Hence, this brings out the major drawback in the theory of Savini. Therefore, it can be concluded that Savini, being himself a trainee under the powerful influence of the natural philosophical thinker Kant, his own definition of law is remarkable. And according to Savini, law is the rule where the invisible borderline is fixed within which the being and activity of each individual obtains a secure and free space. His divergence from the philosophical school is with reference to the true nature of law and sources from which it proceeds, because in the natural law there was no demarcation that where the laws are proceeding from. All the laws that were taken into account were divine laws and the laws made by God, whereas Savini gave a reference that all the laws have been evolved from historical values and customs. While the philosophical school conceived of law as originating in man's reason and having its authority in its ethical or moral basis, Savini saw law as a spontaneous evolution of the national spirit, having its justification in the social pressure behind it or in historic necessity. Now, the next school that emerged out was sociological school. The main reason behind the emergence of sociological school, it was in against of the obsession of naturalist with religion, reasons, ethics, morality. It was in against to the positivist theory of coercive powers, and mainly it was in against to obsession of historical schools with past customs. The sociological school, having predominant name the Roscoe Pond, etc., they believed that the growth and development of law is blocked due to past customs, traditions, and values emphasized by historical schools jurists. It also believed that there was a way to narrow nationalism in Germany and France due to historical school and its theories. So the sociological school theory shifted emphasis from an individual to the society. The 19th century witnessed a shift of emphasis from the individual to the society. This happened as a result of shocking consequences resulting from laissez faire doctrine. The historical school was a reaction to the intense individualism of the 19th century by its emphasis on Volksgeist, which is popular spirit, indicated that law and the social environment in which it develops are intimately connected. The historical school believed on the popular will, on the spirit of people, but the sociological school led its emphasis on the society as a whole. It took the society as a whole and determined the conduct of each individual belonging to the society. The sociological school started with a belief that it is the purposes of society and social relations which determine the nature, purpose, and functions of law. It is the requirement of society that shapes the law. it was more of the functional jurisprudence. The predominant theme of the sociological jurisprudence was to promote socio-economic good of the society through law. They believed law in this sense is invariably faced with the problems of recognition of competing claims, demands, and interest, which is to balance and compromise with innate objective of satisfying such interests which require urgent and immediate solutions. That is why it is called functional jurisprudence, or jurisprudence of interest, or jurisprudence of social engineering, or experimental jurisprudence. Accordingly, a vast variety of approaches of diverse colors of the study of law have emerged from Holmes and Pounds, from Marx and Renner, all of them having a common stand of thought towards study of law in terms of satisfaction of human needs, wants, and interests. Ehring formulated the basic underlying rationale of this school in the terms: formerly there was high valuing of property and lower valuing of person. Now there is lower valuing of property and higher valuing of person. In a sense, the emphasis shifted from individual interest to the social interest, and now there is a marked tendency to envisage on universal or world interest, as world is moving towards a global village on account of technological revolution. In his theory of social engineering, Roscoe Pound has talked about private and individual interests, public interest, and social interest of people that govern the laws. It says the law does not create interest, but laws are created by interest. It devises means for securing them when recognized and within determined limits. It says that the social interest drafts the law, therefore, it is called social engineering. So, as a tool of social engineering, law is more than rules. Like an engineer's formula, law represents not only experiences or scientific formulation, but also inventive skills in conceiving new devices, formulating their requirements by means of a developed technique. Therefore, in short terms, he said that law is a social engineering and should evolve as per social conditions from time to time. Therefore, apart from rules, law has conceptions and standards for conduct and decision. Further, it also has doctrines and modes of professional thoughts and professional rules of arts by which the precepts for conduct and decisions are applied. Last school in this list is the realist school. Realist school talks about the judicial approach. It states that the decisions made by court are to be taken as law. Like precedents, how precedents are being followed, how precedents become binding to a nation and its judicial system. Realist school has talked about that. It has talked about how judges interpret the law, the codified law, and apply it on the current matter in front of them. This school evolved out when American president was Sir Franklin D. Roosevelt. It mainly talks about the legal realism which judges follow while deciding a matter. They take care of everything that is embedded in the statutes. They do not consider only abstract laws but also social interest and public policy while deciding a case. According to realist school, the validity of law is finally tried at the courts by the hands of the lawyers and judges. So, according to them, laws are made by judges, but they also say that there are various contributing factors that influence their decision making capacity. So this was all for today's video. The question is, how can you find these 5 schools: natural school, positive school, sociological school, historical school, and realist school in Indian context? Give evidences to prove your answers in the comment box below. Also, if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe the channel. Thank you for watching. If you have any queries, suggestions, and feedbacks, please feel free to contact us at legaldarshan@gmail.com. Thank you for watching this video.